How much productivity have you lost as a leader because you haven't addressed conflict on your team? Let's talk about conflict. I've been in leadership for about 20 years. I have seen all sorts of conflict. I've had to deal with it, whether I liked it or not. It was part of my job. I will tell you this right now. If you do not address conflict immediately on your team, it will become a bigger problem. It will impact your productivity, your team's morale, relationships, outcomes, and results. So, without further ado, let's dive right into it. Conflict happens. You are putting a bunch of strangers together to achieve some sort of common result, some sort of common mission. We all come from different backgrounds. We all come from different faiths. We have a certain system that we abide by. We have a different set of morals. We have different upbringing. We believe work ethic to be one thing versus another. So yeah, of course, naturally, you're going to have conflict. It's a bunch of strangers getting together forcefully almost because they just signed up to get a job, and they're expected to magically get along and hold hands and deliver these phenomenal results. But that's just not the reality. That's not going to happen, okay? So the reality is you're going to have conflict at some point on your team, and what is very, very important for you as a leader is to go address it as soon as you recognize it. So let me tell you a story. I worked remotely for a number of years, and leading remotely is even more difficult. But that doesn't mean that conflict won't happen, right? Especially when I've never met these people face to face, especially when we've never shook hands, especially when it's really hard to read body language sometimes on camera because people can kind of hide behind the lens a little bit. So I was in a meeting with my boss and one of my subordinates at the time, and we were all trying to look at some reports or pull something up on the screen, and my boss kept asking my subordinate, hey, can you please pull it up? Because she's the one that had the info. She's the one that had the report. And as he's like, hey, can you please pull it up? He asked a couple of times. She's not responding. She's off camera also, but in the meeting. And he asked for a third time, hey, can you please pull it up? And she just immediately said, give me a minute, I'm trying, right? Well, first of all, nobody can see you, you're offline. Nobody knows that you are actually trying to pull it up because you haven't responded. And how long does it take to pull up a file? Like, say something. And immediately I saw a conflict there, right? Immediately, that is not an appropriate way to respond to someone, regardless of whether you report to them or not. It's just that is not an appropriate response in a work setting. And so after the meeting, my boss didn't address it. After the meeting, I went to my boss and I said, hey, I really think that you need to pull this person aside and address the way that she responded to you. Because if you don't, then she will think it's okay to behave in this manner and she will continue. And if she is responding that way to myself, right, in the room, the person she reports to directly, the person that has leverage over like her performance reviews and her annual performance, monetary possible increases, and also you who are my boss, so she's two levels up, right? Of seeing two levels of exposure here. If she's okay doing that with us, what is she doing with her subordinates? What is she doing with other people? Like, you need to go address this right away. And my boss at the time gave me an answer that just left me speechless. And he said, well, I don't like conflict, so I'm not gonna do it. And so I completely disagreed, and I thought that this was a big mistake, and I was getting ready to start dealing with the aftermath and the fallout. Because again, if this person deemed it okay to respond the way she did to her direct leader and her leader's leader, then she's more than likely doing it to other people. Okay, that's just a logical deduction that anyone would make. And so I let it go, and in retrospect, that was a mistake, and I should have addressed it with her, even though my boss didn't. But I didn't. I thought it was his job to go do that. He didn't. He chose not to. And what ended up happening was that this person behaved exactly how I expected her to behave, which is she was demeaning to her people. So I started getting complaints from her team about the way she was talking to him. She would snap at peers in meetings where they would message me and ask me, hey, is so and so okay? She seems really frustrated. She's like snapping at people. And it just created a bunch of tension in her relationships, and it created a bunch of just hesitation from others to want to work with her. So that's just an example of how leaving that type of behavior unchecked and not addressing it as a leader can have ripple effects. In this particular individual's case, it ended up really damaging her relationship long term. She got a reputation for someone that you don't want to work with, someone that, if you step on her toes inadvertently, she'll bite your head off, or she'll tell you off, or she'll have harsh words for you. Like, nobody wants that, right? We all go to work and we all want to get along to a certain extent so that we can get that mutual goal to the finish line. And that was just not happening because this person created so much damage with the way she was interacting with people. So that was lesson learned from me, from that situation. So what I did, having witnessed this interaction and learning from that experience, as soon as, down the line, as soon as I noticed that there was some sort of conflict, I immediately addressed it. And that doesn't mean you have to go in and just, put people down and like, oh my God, you're a bad employee. But you do have to be explicitly clear as to what will and will not be tolerated at work. And so I did exactly that. I had another situation where we were in a group setting and a completely different employee, had a similar snappy type of response to whatever it is that we were discussing, and I could see other people's faces in the meeting just being taken aback, like, okay, what did I say, what did I do? Regardless of what someone says or does, unless they're being like full on confrontational, it is never appropriate to snap in the workplace. It is never appropriate to be disrespectful. So I pulled this person to the side after the meeting, immediately after the meeting, right? I'm not gonna go to lunch. I'm not gonna take a break. I'm not gonna go work on whatever project. And in fact, I had another meeting coming up, and I told them, look, I'm gonna have to reschedule because I have to address something very important right now. And I did exactly that. I pulled this person to the side and I head on said, look, we're here to talk about the way that you behaved in the last meeting. My observations are that when this person said XYZ, your response was ABC. Now, the tone in which you responded, I don't feel was appropriate. Did you happen to notice your peers' facial expressions when you responded to them? And she was just sort of silent. And so I continued. I said, well, I noticed that they were taken aback. I noticed that it was almost like, they were very confused as to why you were responding that way and why they even received this type of message from you. It was completely inappropriate. That is not something that is tolerated, and that is not conducive to teamwork and collaboration. And if you continue to have this communication style, you can expect that your relationship are going to be damaged and people will not want to work for you, and they'll basically just avoid you, which in the long run is going to hurt your reputation and is going to hurt your chances for getting promoted or getting assigned really important projects that give you good visibility within the company. So let's talk about this a little bit. But the message that I want you to get out of this conversation is that this cannot happen again, and it is not going to be accepted and tolerated at this company. And then I just stopped talking, right? And let her sort of process the information, because I get it, it's a lot, and maybe she didn't realize that she was addressing the room the way she was. And in fact, that's exactly what she said. She said, you know what? I didn't even realize it. I have a very direct communication style, and I apologize. I didn't know that I came across so harshly, and that's something that I will genuinely work on, because I don't want to be perceived this way. I don't want people to think that they can work with me. I don't want people to think that I'm not taking them, their opinion into consideration. And so that was a really good outcome. But unfortunately, there's times where people may start fighting you on it. Like, that's not true. I didn't do it. That you read the room the wrong way. I don't think that's how it was. Whatever, a bunch of excuses. It doesn't matter. Like, their response ultimately does not matter. What matters is that you reset expectations and you use very explicit words of, this will not be tolerated. That type of behavior is not welcome here. This is not how we want to conduct ourselves at this particular company. And I need confirmation from you, and I need, like, right now for you to commit to not behaving this way going forward and for this to not happen again. And you need to get that verbal confirmation from them before you leave that conversation. Once that conversation is finished, what you need to do is follow up in writing. This isn't a write-up, so let's be very clear. It's not verbal, it's not a write-up, this is not disciplinary action. This is simply going to document what it is that you discussed and what commitments this individual made. Because if they don't correct that behavior down the line, then you will need this documentation for potential disciplinary down the line if they continue to behave in a way that is completely unacceptable and inappropriate. So when you follow up, it needs to be factual. This is not about, going on a soliloquy and attacking the individual. This is simply stating facts. We were in XYZ meeting, the audience were these people, and you list the actual names. The topic of the meeting was XYZ. At some point during the conversation, you responded in a manner that was could be received as unprofessional and could create conflict within the team. Please remember, as a leader, we're here to encourage each other, support one another, be respectful, and communicate in a way where it's conducive to what we're trying to accomplish together as a team. You and I met after the meeting and we discussed these topics, and you committed to correcting the behavior effective immediately and that this will not happen again. Please reply to this email acknowledging. And that's it. And that you house that somewhere in their file, and that is just your documentation. Hopefully it's a one-off. It doesn't happen again. In my experience, it continues happening with some individuals, and you will need that documentation down the line. And that protects you, and it shows that you did address the problem, so that if anybody comes to you questioning, why is this person behaving this way, you can have proof that you've been addressing it. Okay, so definitely do not let it go. Don't let this type of behavior go by without immediately addressing it. You just don't know the ripple effects that it could have with others and how damaging it can be ultimately to the whole team. So I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your opinions, and if you've dealt with similar situations, what was the outcome? How did you address it? Please comment below. And if you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing and liking. And I hope you have a phenomenal day.